Full behind the scenes wedding day with the Tamron 35-150 f2 to f2.8. And if you're a member, you have access to a settings video over on the members website right now. So you see all the settings from the day. All right, here we are. Tamron 35-150 all day. Starting with a few exterior shots of the venue to set the scene. And there's a dog barking in the background. So, one of the things I like a lot about this lens is you can get lots of different variations. You can go from wide to obviously telephoto, but you can frame things a lot differently, very, very quickly, especially when speed and efficiency is important, such as on a wedding day. Oh, we didn't do an intro. Welcome to an in-the-field review of the Tamron 35-150 f2 to f2.8. And it is an incredible lens that will do everything all day for you. Quick members website note. If you do want to get in on the monthly membership, you have to do it before Black Friday. After Black Friday, the monthly option will be gone. You sign up, you can keep it. But if you're signing up after Black Friday of this year, you will have to sign up for the annual rather than the monthly. And the members website is access to all of my wedding photography courses, of which there are a lot of them. Also, we're doing a full length course in Portugal. It's a full one-day workshop that will be coming out to members as well. So if you want to see a full one day, we're going to do some shooting, off-camera flash, all kinds of topics covered. Come on over, join up the members website, and you get the settings video for today as well. This here is the room of one of my favorite experiences of my life. I will now cut to that clip. This is my seat at tonight's wedding. I don't know why I had to put the table in the center of the room. This might be the funniest place I've ever sat for a dinner alone. Great. Got bread. Beautiful. That works really well. All right, and even if you don't want to put your hands kind of like this or whatever is comfortable, that's good. And if you want to look at towards the window there. Can I move you a little closer to the window? That's great. Perfect. So there's no first look today. We just went straight to pics. And you can just smile and face towards me for the first ones. Looks great. And if you just want to hold a hand, maybe just be side by side there. Looks nice. We'll talk a little bit more about why I didn't like that last setup and when we do family photos. One thing that I'm really enjoying with this lens is that when you get images at 35, and on the settings video you can see the millimeter I shoot them at, but when you shoot images at 35, they feel so much more like you're part of the scene rather than separated, say, even at the 150 end of this, that you'll get the shot, but it feels a little bit different. Have you guys, if you kind of head somewhere over this way where kind of that bush begins.
Walking?
You don't have to walk. I would say walk down that way, turn around with your dress still in hand, and right about there is great. I love that I don't have to change lenses, that I can get the wide shots as well as telephoto shots. See me moving the zoom ring around quite a lot. You know, even right on that landing is really nice too. Can I put your dress down there for... Beautiful. That looks great. Do you guys just want to hold hands and just kind of be a little bit separate right there? Separate, that's great. And you can look at each other and just kind of smile at each other. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna bring you down to the... All right, I'm gonna have you guys right here, and you're gonna be facing each other, and I'm gonna be out over on this way here. You can hold hands, yeah, and even, yeah, exactly like that. Take kind of the tiniest step this way. I'm just trying to center you guys. That should be good right there. All right, looks good. And you can look at each other there. All right. You know what, can I do just an individual with you up there while you're up there? Yeah. Maybe take a small step or one step kind of that way just so you're a little more centered. Right there is great. Perfect. Looks really good. You know what, Frank, can I bring you like just kind of right here? So if you're right there, exactly like that, and side profile towards me here.
Looking at you?
I think you're kind of looking this way here. So you're looking eyeline kind of that way. Yeah, exactly profile, and you can be looking kind of straight at me here. And kind of similar to over there, just you can just even hold a hand and be squared off kind of towards me. This looks really good. And it's kind of a wider shot, so you don't have to worry too much about. Looks good. And even if you want to look at each other for one or two. That looks great. Perfect. And even if you want to look kind of down that way there. So the variation that you can get from this lens is really quite wonderful. You can do getting ready coverage. You can do bridal portraits. You can do couples photos. You can do family photos. You can do everything very easily with this lens. Another, I guess, great thing is with the advancements of mirrorless cameras and just high ISO performance in general, is that you really can get by with a 2.8 lens at the long end all day if you want. That was almost a photo that worked out. It's pretty close. But you'll see in the end of the video that even when we do get into reception lighting, that it is no problem to just continue using this lens and bring the ISO up. You probably have a higher upper limit of high ISO performance on whatever camera it is that you use. On the Sony A7IV, I like to stay at 10,000 or below. That was at 1/15th of a second, by the way. Moving into details, I like this lens a lot because you can do, usually I would do a lap of the room with a 35, and then I would do an 85 as well, sometimes 7200, but now you're able to just kind of do everything on one lens and just get the shots back to back, which is great. Maybe another test of this lens, and also I guess the camera, the dynamic range, is that we wanted to use this as the set, but as you can see, it's a very, very backlit scene. To bring in a softbox is not really possible with the number of people, and to get that softbox close enough. But as you can see, the backlit nature of this is no problem for this lens. There's no ghosting or weird issues. Moving into the ceremony and Candids is specifically when this lens becomes the most valuable for me, that I can just roam around and I can get a wide variety of photos from close-ups like this. I also discovered that when you get really close, so when you're shooting at 35, so I'm pretty close to 35 there, but when you're actually at 35 and you're at a close distance, it feels almost, and this may be a positive or a negative for you, it feels almost as if there's a very subtle mist filter on the lens. I've noticed this a lot when lights are kind of pointed directly down the barrel of the lens, that it does feel like there's some sort of mist element. And that could be seen as a negative if you want that optimal sharpness. But if you're a wedding photographer, it makes everyone look a little bit better in those photos. You can kind of see it in that shot there. Hi. Again, I'll point out the fact that when you get really close, when you're at 35 like this, and you take a photo at 35, the lens is smaller than it looks in the distortion of the GoPro, but you really feel like you're there in the scene. And for this section of the day, for the Candids, for the ceremony, this is the go-to lens of all lenses, I think, for wedding photographers. My tip for here is to stand near the good light, so the good light is coming in from here. So stand here and make compositions accordingly. That's all I have to say. Even though it's out of the scope of this video, I will comment a little bit on the video possibilities that you can create with this lens. If you are somebody interested in doing wedding highlight films, this makes your life so much easier because it puts everything into one lens rather than multiple camera bodies. The other benefit is that everything remains linear. So if you're shooting everything primarily on one camera body and you're a hybrid photo video creator as one human being or maybe a team of two, it speeds your post-production up significantly when you can just literally throw everything on a timeline, add a song, and edit down to fit into that song. There have been days where I'll shoot, I would say 80 to 90% of the video on just this camera body. I will do a second camera just as kind of backup, I guess physical backup. So just in case something physically happens to this camera, I'm not worried about both of the cards potentially going corrupt. But if something does happen to the camera, then I at least have all of the core stuff shot on two cameras, or if I have a second there. I don't have a second with me today. So I am relying a little bit on that. I have a camera on my right shoulder right now. And I launched the GoPro, unfortunately, into vertical mode. So there's a few clips here that look a little bit weird. They're a little too tight, but hopefully you can see what's going on. Photos like this, I think, are really a testament to the lens holding everything together. That, as you can see in real life, quite dark in Frank's face. And obviously the dynamic range of the camera needs to be able to keep up with that. But also, if you're using a lesser quality lens, you'll get kind of that wraparound flare. And when you do bring up the dynamic range, it'll feel a lot less good than it does with this lens. Typically, up until buying this lens, I would usually be on a 70 to 200. I was actually shooting Canon until I started shooting this lens heavily. And I was on a Canon R6 and I would shoot the 70 to 200 f2.8 pretty much an entire ceremony. And it was great. It worked all of the time. There were no real issues with it. What I did miss out on was the images when they get to the front of the aisle that I always felt I was a little too tight, or maybe the kids did something up at the front as they were walking up the aisle that I wasn't able to capture. With this and being able to get all the way to 35, it really does allow me to capture the wedding day in a much better way. I do really actually believe that. Now, I guess one thing is, do I miss being able to go all the way to 200 and then go into crop mode on top of that? And the answer is yes, a little bit. I do still have APS-C mode set up on my C2 button. So it's right there beside the record button on my A7IV. And I'm able to quickly jump into APS-C mode, which I guess would give me a 225 millimeter equivalent focal length, or kind of focal length, or field of view. And when you go into APS-C mode on the A7IV, I think you get 18 megapixels. So 33 megapixels full frame, 18 in crop, which is more than enough, I think, for the random shots that you're going to include. You're not going to shoot the entire day on APS-C, but for the images that you want to get a little bit closer, and essentially all you're doing is you're cropping in camera rather than coming back and having to do it in post-production and spending more time on that. Or if you're using like an AI solution like Imagine, or potentially after shoot edits, they'll be out soon. If you are using that, obviously, the better you can get it in camera when it comes to composition and it comes to crops, the more accurate that AI edit is going to be. So now, unfortunately, they're going to walk directly at me where I am standing in the darkest space and they are completely backlit. And I will have to make most of these images black and white just because of the color changes that you could go into Lightroom and you could select by subject. It'll auto mask now, and you could swap things. But I always feel it looks a little fake. I think by just making these images black and white, it kind of corrects for all the things that I could spend 20 minutes trying to make this perfect. But I think that a black and white image just is better overall. This is a section of the day that I always get most of my Candids. Again, 35 feels like you're there in the scene. I do my best to get a lot of Candids within this time of the day when everyone is excited. Everybody is typically seeing the couple for the first time, talking to them. And I make sure that I'm always here for this part of the day. I grab my bag prior if I'm worried about that they're going to clean up the venue or something. I make sure that I have everything with me so that I'm able to experience this part of the day with them. I think it's very, very important. And this lens definitely makes that part of the day better. Candles lit, no one in the room. This has never happened before. This is the first time that this has ever happened. It was nice though. I already showed you details, so I'm not going to show you more details because you already saw the details. Here we have some close-ups. The close-up abilities of this lens also quite good. Very funny test, but as you can see, looks quite incredible. Now it's time for another portrait, which will be intercepted slowly over time. But check out those background elements. They look very nice and out of focus. Here's the sky. And now we play some invisible baseball. And the autofocus, as you'd expect, it just keeps up in all situations, no problem. Although I did intentionally make some of these a little blurry in order to make them seem a little bit more exciting, as though kids were running around rather than being a static photo of that. And then a family photo. Moving into the reception, you can see it's that weird awkward blue hour where the light is a little bit too blue in the background and not balanced with the foreground. You could bring in off-camera lights. I don't love to just overpower everything and just have flashes constantly going off, especially when I'm a single photographer here. So I did everything that I could ambient, and I don't really go above 10,000 ISO. You'll see all of that in the settings video, and I talk more about my choices. But I don't really do a whole lot of flash if it's not required until the couple gets up. When the couple gets up, I'll do a few flash photos of them. But for the most part, I do everything as best as I can. If the quality of light is good, I will rely on ambient. And this lens allows me to do that. It is an f2, so when you're at 35, you get lots of light. You're basically using a prime. And then when you're at 150, you're at 2.8, which I think is okay. There are definitely situations where you're going to need an 85, maybe 1.8 or something like that to make sure that you get the reception coverage. But as long as you have that as a backup in your bag, I do feel like you get better overall coverage with the 35-150 on all the time. This is a collection of my dinner videos. I hope that you enjoyed them. So even the ambient light that you can see is no problem for using this lens. As long as you are comfortable going up to a higher ISO, this camera here, 10,000 ISO, I'm totally happy with. You also get reaction shots like this, where you get the podium shot, and you can turn around and get that reaction shot as well. I am going to put on the Godox V1 on top of my camera, and I'll show you a few photos with the light. So that's what it looks like when you bring in the light. You add that bounce flash off the ceiling. It is technically better. I don't know what feels better to you. You can make your own choice. I like to have a mix of both for the couple, and then I will usually lay off any sort of flash unless necessary over dinner. So here's a bit of a unique scenario. I get to shoot a first dance at 35 millimeters. I've never got to do that before. There's a wall directly behind me, so I don't feel like I'm encroaching weirdly or awkwardly into their space, but I'm able to get that nice bounce flash right from behind me. Would I have shot this on ambient? Probably not. They went into a darker area and the lights came down. As you can see though, for just kind of a little demo here and how the eye tracking works in the evening time. And I'm on shade white balance still because of the fact that I'm using a bounce flash that is daylight balance and just kind of ignoring the ambient. And there it is. The wedding day is done. I like to do one final image to end the gallery. And it might be out here or it might be the front of the house or something to kind of close it off rather than just a random dance photo. Is this it? And that's all. Don't forget, settings video over on the members website, and the monthly rate disappears. So if you sign up for the monthly, you get to keep it, but Black Friday, starting then you have to sign up for the annual if you want to join in the members website. So get in now if you want to get in on that lower rate. See you again next time. Also, there's on the screen, there's a bunch of these full wedding days if you want to go check them out, and drop any questions you have in the comments. See you next time.